Hi, my name is Alma Peterson, and today I'm going to be talking about problem 2 for this Teach Me assignment. And it's basically figuring out if 1081 is a prime number. And when I say a prime number, it means it means that it only has two factors. So number one, the number can only be divided by itself. So our goal is just to check rather if the number divides evenly into 1081. So before we start dividing, I want to talk about only dividing prime numbers. And what I mean by that means that it might seem a little bit like strange. Why are we not dividing whole numbers? But the reason is why it's because we can't break down like composition numbers, can't be broken down into like factor numbers. So for example, like 12 isn't prime, but it is made up of like 2 or 3 because 12 is equal is equal to like 2 times 2 times 3. So that means that 12 were a factor of 1081. Because because of its prime factor, which is either 2 or 3, if that makes sense. So we need to start by knowing how to divide. We definitely don't need to divide all the way up to 1081, or we would be here more than 5 minutes. But instead, we're going to divide the prime up to the square root of 1081. So we know the square root of 1081 is 32.8. So we can now like round that down to the nearest whole number, which would be 31, because it's closer to 31 than 33. Okay, so the reason why we stop at the root of 1081, it's because the factor is like larger than the square root. Okay, so now we gotta list all the numbers that are the prime numbers of that are the prime numbers to that equal up to like 31. So we know these are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, and 31. And here I have them 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, and 31. And we are going to check each of these numbers to see if they divide into 1081. So since we started at 2, we know that 1081 is an odd number, so it cannot be divided. So it's not divisible by 2. Next, 3 is a quick one because we know that it can add up to like digits. So like 1 plus 0 plus 8 plus 1 equals 10. So since it has its dividental by 3, that means that 181 is not divided by 3. Okay, and so on, so on. So if we keep going, we can do 11, because if not, we can do 11. Okay, and 11, so we can do 11. So 1081 divided by 11 is 92.27, which is not a whole number. And if we do 13, 13 is not it's not it's not a whole number either. Okay, so we know that, and if we keep going, 17 is not a whole number, 19 is not a whole number, 23 is not a whole number, and 29 is not a whole number. But if we divide it by 1081 divided by 31, it is a whole number. So because when we divide it by the largest number, which is 31, we know that it's not a whole number. So because none of these prime factors that we have listed are a prime number that divide up to 1081, that means that none of them are, that means that it's not a prime factor. So, yes. Sorry. That means that because it's not a whole number, it means that 1081 is a prime factor. Sorry, I was reading my notes too fast. Is a prime factor. So, tips that I want to leave off is that you can only divide a prime factor by the possible factors. You can only divide it by the square root. And and yeah, I hope this makes sense, and thank you for watching.